Hey everyone, it's me, Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi out here in Northern California. How are you? I'm so excited to bring you this new class today. This is Transcending the Mariposa tile. This class is all about emerging and coming out of our cocoons and creating our new world that we are going to have all around us after we emerge from COVID. And I just love the symbolism of this. Transcending is one of my favorite techniques in the Zentangle world, and I thought we would play with the idea of transcending with spirit animals, and the butterfly seems to be a popular one for most people, so that's why I've created the class for you. So materials are coming up in the video, and I hope you enjoy the class. All right, so let's get started here. So you can see that I've printed out the template. Now this template is on the class description for this video. There's a link there that you click on and you can just print it out on your printer, and it's making it so easy for you to do the class. So the butterfly is already drawn for you, and so is the grid. So all you have to do is just tangle and transcend, which is what we want to do. We just want to have some fun, right? So the other things that you are going to need for class are, I happen to have my Pigma pen. This is the 05, but if you have your Micron PN or an 01 or 03, either one of those pens will work out just fine, or just use your favorite Tangle pen. I also happen to have a little bit thicker of the Pigma pen. This is the 10, and I love this because you can see that the tip is a little bit wider so that I can make bolder lines. If you don't have one of these, you can use a Sharpie, or if you have one of my favorite pens, this is the Permapaic. This is a great pen too. It has a great thick tip on it, or an Identa pen will do. So any of those thick pens would be great for doing the transcending. Now you know me, I do love my Signo white. The white pen is a really fun one from Signo. I have the angelic one here today, but you can also use the original Signo, or you can use the Jelly Roll white. You'll want to make sure that it's a thicker one, so the 08 or the 10 is great for that. And then finally, you're going to want to have a gray color pencil. Now you can see in my hand, I happen to have my favorite gray color pencil from the Prisma set. This is PC1063, I think it is. It might be 1065. And this is the 70% cool gray. I love this for making shadows. So it's a really great pen. If you only have the 50% warm gray or cool gray, either one of those will do as well. So with that said, let's get started with transcending the Mariposa. Okay. So many of you know that I love to tangle over things. I love to tangle over words. I love to tangle over music. I love to tangle over maps, all sorts of things. And in this particular case, we're going to be tangling right over the butterfly. So I want you to kind of suspend your perfectionist here, and we're going to be working right over the top of this. This means we're going to be crossing lines and doing all sorts of things that are not traditional in the Zentangle method, but I promise you, when we're all done, you're really going to enjoy the technique and want to work with all different kinds of spirit animals to do this type of work. So I happen to have a graphite pencil in my hand, and if you feel like you just want a little bit of guidance to help yourself here, go ahead and grab a graphite pencil. So you can see that I have my grid up in here, and you can also see that that butterfly is working right into that grid. So what we're going to do is we're going to go into the grid. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger, and in each box what I'm going to do is I'm going to do an X, so it'll look a little something like this. You can see I'm taking my time with it, and I'm just going ahead and going right over the top of those lines of the butterfly. It's almost like I'm not even paying attention to it. And I'm just going to make my X's in each box. So you go ahead and make your X's in each box, and we're going to go all the way through just the grid and do just that. Okay, so you can see that I have done all of my boxes with the X's in it. So each box has one X inside of it. Super easy. I know it can get a little confusing with that butterfly, but once we start tangling, you're just going to go right for it. No problem. So I am going to pick up my Tangle pen. So if you're using a PN or an O1 or just your regular Tangle pen, go ahead and grab it. And we're going to do a fragment here. So I'm going to just go to this one box and make it super easy for us here. So you can see I'm starting right in this area. And all I'm going to do is in the center of the box, I'm going to make a nice dot. Then once I've got that dot in there, and I want to make it considerable, so you're going to see me just define that a little bit. And then I want you to think of Bale's flower. So I love to do this tangle and I do it quite a bit. So all I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a petal and connect it to the inside circle. Now here you can see I'm working in this box, right? So I'm just working inside of this box, but there is my butterfly. Don't even think twice about it. Just focus on the box. So you're going to see me go ahead and I'm going to come in and start to work and just create my really sweet tangle in there. Okay, so go ahead and go into each box and do the same thing. So it's just a little fragment that we're doing, super easy. Okay, so you can see that we've got our really fun tangle there, and it just went right over the top of that butterfly. Now remember when I was talking about needing a thicker pen for this? So what I want you to do is I want you to grab your thicker pen now, and we're going to start to create the transcending line for the butterfly here. Now, I know that this will seem a little bit noisy to you when you look at it, but I want you to soften your eye a little bit. You can still see that very delicate line of the butterfly right in here. Okay, so all I'm going to do is I'm going to look for that softer line, and I've got my thicker pen, and all I'm going to do is I'm going to make that thicker line come down right through my piece here. So you can see I just defined that part of the butterfly here, and I'm just going to go ahead and come right down. You can see I'm staying inside of the grid. I'm not going to do the whole butterfly right now. But I'm just looking for where that soft line was. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to do just a little bit more right in here. And that's all I'm going to do. I'm going to make sure that if there's any other part on the grid that I have, I can go over here and do a little bit on the grid, but I'm not going to do anything down here. I want this to stay really clean. If you want to make your lines a little bit thicker, you can go ahead and make them a little bit thicker just so that you can see what you're working with here. I try not to make mine too thick because I really want it to have a translucent feel when we get to our transcending. Okay, so you can see that I'm just going through and creating that. So all of a sudden that butterfly has come back into the picture, which is great. And I can see that I didn't do my little dot in here, so I'm just going to put my dot in there. So super easy, super fun. And now we're going to come over to this side and we're going to play a little bit. Okay, so I'm going to continue on with the thickness of the butterfly here just for a moment. So we're going to come in and we're going to start to lay this down and get right in here. And you can see that I'm just going to work my way through. And the reason why I'm doing this is because this next part is going to require us to get a little bit loose and a little bit more creative with the way that we tangle. This next tangle is going to get a little bit more layered and a lot more organic. So I'm just coming in here and looking for the rest of my butterfly, and you can see that's part of where the antenna is. And I'm just going to come down right over here and put his little head in there with his little antenna. Get that, maybe darken in those, maybe darken in here a little bit just to make his body show up. So you can see now that the full butterfly is in there. Cat's got my tongue today. So I'm just going through and making my lines just a skosh thicker so that I really can see that butterfly as I'm starting to tangle. Now remember, we are going to be breaking all the rules today, so you're going to be going over lines and everything. So I want you to feel like you can really see what you're doing. So once I have that, I'm going to be doing a really fun tangle. This is a version of Petal Pusher, and I just changed it up a little bit. Petal Pusher is a tangle pattern. I believe it's by Chris Gerstner, and it was created in, let's see here, 2014, I believe it is. So what Petal Pusher looks like is we're going to come in and we're going to do a circle. And then once we have the circle, we're going to do a flux on top. We're going to do a flux on the bottom. And we're going to do a flux on side to side here. Okay, so these are all going around the inside of that, around the circle. Now, I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to create a petal that connects these together. And that's just my little variation on this. Originally, the Petal Pusher just had a little baby flux connecting these, but I decided I wanted to do it with a petal. And then later on, you can come in and you can add a little bit of a fescue in here to make it interesting. And if you want to really jazz up your flux, you can come in and do a nice aura, which gives us kind of a 1960s feel, like you would have seen some really cute textiles that would have had this kind of a flower on it. They're seeing me come in and just add that in, and you've got a really great tangle there. This is something that's really fun to play with. And if you even wanted to add an aura around the outside of your petals, feel free to add an aura around your petals. These are all just variations on the same theme here. But we're going to layer these, and when I say we're going to layer them, I want you to think of it like this. So I'm just going to come in right over here, and I'm going to bring in a circle really close. And then I'm going to start the whole business again. So you're going to see me start to create my flux here, my flux here. But now I have to layer, or I have to holly-baw, as we talk about in the Zentangle community. This is the idea of layering. And then I can come in and create my petal. Now here you won't be able to see the petal because it's underneath, but then watch, I'm just going to go ahead and do my little interesting detailings. Super easy, super mellow. And then if I want to, I can aura around my petals. And you can see now that this one looks like it's on top of that one. So the idea is to layer these as much as we can so that when we go in to do our coloring, it's really going to be this really fun, organic tangle. And you can see I'm going big with this one, so you could vary the size of it as well. And just playing with it. And I just love the idea of layering these and having some fun with it. And you can see I'm not being perfectionistic about this. I'm just kind of flowing through and playing and letting my inner kid out to have a good time. And that's really what Zentangle is all about. It's about having a good time and enjoying the creative process and not getting hung up on whether or not something is perfect. You can see I'm looking for my spots to jump out in. So super, super fun and easy and playful. So let's go ahead and start to bring this into the piece. The only thing that's going to be a little complicated is you just have to remember, don't worry about your butterfly. Go right over the top of it. Don't have a care in the world. I know it's going to be one of those things where you're like, oh, I don't want to go over that line. Go over that line. Have fun with it. All right, so I'm just going to start in here, and I'm going to start with a nice big one. I'm going to start right here. Oh yeah, let's just go right for it. Look at that circle right in the middle of that intersection. Doesn't that just drive you crazy? All right, so we're going to come in and we're going to start with that flux. And then we're going to do another one. I know that inner kid is just going, oh my God, you're going over the lines. Don't worry about it. And then once you have that, go ahead and make a petal and another petal and another petal. And here comes another one. All right. Now we're going to go ahead and add our detailing in, right? So I'm just going to come in, I'm looking for my flux, and I'm just going to go ahead and aura, 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 and one more. And then if you want to go on the outside of your petals or the inside of your petals to create that little aura line, you can. I think I'll just go right in here and do it because I think it's just kind of fun to do it on the inside. So I'm just going to go ahead and aura from the inside. Come over here and do the same. Same thing over here. And over here. And that's so fun. I just love that. And then if you want to, you can come back in with your detailing. So I'm just going to throw a couple of fescues in there, or fescue-like things. And there I've got my first one. So now I'm just going to keep on going with it and just have fun. So I think I'm going to add a circle right over here. This is going to make it so that it's nice and close, and I'm going to start to get an overlap. So I'm just going to come in right here. I'm going nice and big, taking up the space. Here I'm going to pull that holly baw. You know, just go right over. And then I'm going to come in and I'm going to do my petals. And here I'm going to holly bob because I've got that flower there, so I'm not going to intersect that. Okay? And then I'm going to go for it. So I'm going to start to do my detailing. Super fun. Very relaxing. I can hear you. You're saying, this is crazy. I can't believe she's doing that. I'll come in over here and add a little bit of that. So now I've got two. So this one's overlapping on top of this one. I'm just going to keep on rolling with this and have some fun. So I'm going to go in, coming up and over. Now, here's what I want to talk about. We don't want to intersect over here. This is a different pattern, so we're going to have that idea of holly baw, that idea that this pattern just disappears under the bottom of that one. So we're just going to keep on rolling and having some fun. Holly bawing as we create the pattern, so you can see that it looks like it's going underneath. And then I'm going to go ahead and do my petals. Adding my detailing. So now I'm going in and auraing. And you can see I'm not being perfectionistic about this at all. I'm just having fun. And I'll come in and I'll start to aura over here. And I'm going to go ahead and aura over here. Super fun. And then maybe I can add a couple of those little pieces. We want it to look handmade, right? So I'm just going to keep on rolling with this. So here comes another circle. I'm going to go ahead and start to create that flux. So I'm just looking for the flowers. I'm not even paying attention to that butterfly at all. I'm just completely ignoring it. Then I'll add those little petals. And then I'll go ahead and I'll aura inside of those petals. Just having a good old time. And then if you want to, you can add your little pieces in here. Super, super fun. So I'm just going to keep on rolling with this. I'm going to go ahead and add a circle right over here. See how I'm just completely disregarding that butterfly, but when I get to the other pattern, I stop. And this is a great mind tool. You know, you have to focus and pay attention because there is a lot going on here. But really, the concept is very simple, and sometimes simple can be more complicated than you think. I'm just taking my time with that. And that's feeling pretty good, but I may just add a couple more pieces to it. So I might just come up into this corner over here. Add some of those petals in. Add my details. You can see I'm taking my time. I'm not in any kind of rush. It's almost like putting together a puzzle. Really fun. Alright, so I like where this is going, and I feel like I'm pretty much done with it. I might be able to add more, but I kind of want to leave it open and see what happens. So go ahead and finish up yours. I'm going to finish up mine and just get maybe into these corners over here. I might even just go in and pretend that I've got a petal over here. And then maybe I'll come up over here and do another one where there's like a petal coming off. Maybe I'll do one over here, create like this petal that looks like it's coming off. That feels pretty good to me. Alright, so when we come back, we are going to start to work with color. I know, already, right? Alright, so we are going to start with some color. Now I know that you're looking at this and you're thinking, oh my gosh, this is so busy. It's almost making me a little nauseous, right? But I promise you that when you are working with a piece that looks like this and you bring color into it, it is magnificent when you're done with it. The more busy a piece is, when you bring color in, it just has a way of grounding it, I promise you. So we're going to start out nice and simple here, and I'm going to start with 3 colors, and they're all within the same kind of shade range here. So I've got a light pink, I've got a magenta, and I've got a violet. Okay, and the reason why I'm doing this is because the light pink is going to be the base for the square, and then the magenta and the violet are going to be the flower. So I'm going to talk about the colors, and you can use the same colors as me or not. I really want to give you permission to completely go off the rails and do your own thing. So if you want to just follow along, that's fine. Or if you want to just really throw caution to the wind, you go and do your thing. So this is blush pink, and this is PC928. I love this pink because it's got a nice neutralness to it. It's almost earthy in its presentation, but not peachy. I also have the process red here, one of my favorite colors, and I actually had to buy a new one because my other one disappeared. You can see that I used my pencils till the end. So PC994 is the number for this. Process red looks like a hot pink or a hot magenta, really pretty. And then finally, I've got violet here, which is PC992. So these are the 3 colors that we're going to be working with today. Now, for those of you who have never been with me before, and this is your first class, when you're doing color, each pencil has 3 different colors to it. You have your light, you have your medium, and you've got your dark. It's all about the amount of pressure that you're putting on your pencil. Now, when you have a pencil that looks like this one, where it's a little bit more translucent, it's harder to tell the difference between your medium and your dark, and that's why I love to have a darker color nearby. Okay? So let's flip this bad boy over here, and we are just going to start super easy. Now, what this is going to look like is we're going to be doing every other box. So I'm going to say that one more time so that you really hear me. We are doing every other box. Okay? So I'm going to start by going in, and I've got the process red in my hand, and I'm going with a very light pressure. So a nice light pressure. And then once I've got that, I'm going to add a little bit of definition to it. So I'm just getting in here. And then I'll come in, and let's make this nice and big so you can really see what I'm up to. And I'm going to go with the same pencil and press a little bit harder and go halfway through the petal. So I'm coming in and going halfway through the petal, just like so. Now I'm going to do that in every other box, so you're going to see me skip this one and go to the next one. So all I'm doing is nice light pressure, filling in, working in a circular like motion so that I get a nice mist of color. And then a little bit darker halfway through each petal. Okay, so you get the concept, right? Every other box, and just doing that with the first color. Okay? All right, have fun, and when we come back, we'll start to add more to it. So you can see that I've had a chance to do every other box. Can you see that? So once I've got that, I'm going to go ahead with my lighter pink that I have here, and I'm going to start to work around in each of those boxes with the pink flower, and you can see that I'm laying down a dusting of that pale pink around that bright pink flower. Now you'll notice that I'm just going very, very softly with this. I'm not going really hard with that color. I just want it to have a mist of color to it, okay? So I'm going to go into each one of these and start to put that pink in the background. You do yours, I'll finish up mine, and we'll add just a little bit more to those flowers. So you can see that just adding a little bit of that definition to the background has already started to make those pop right off the page, which is great. I'm going to pick up that violet color that we have here, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into this flower right up here in the corner just to do the demo for you. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come up in here and just do a little dusting inside of where that darker pink is, and you can see that I'm going very softly with it. I don't have to press hard in order to get a lot of definition out of it. So I'm going to go into each one of those flowers and do the same thing. So just a dusting of that purple, just to get a little bit of definition going on. So you do yours, relax, take a deep breath, enjoy what you're doing, and then when we come back, we'll do some blending. Okay? See you in a minute. All right, so let's do some blending here. I'm going to come right back up to this upper corner. And you can see that I've got a strong line of demarcation right in here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with that pink that we used in the background, and I'm going to blur out my edges of where that purple is meeting the process red just by rubbing a little bit of that pink over the top of it. See how that softened it up? And then the same thing right here. I'm going to blur out this edge just by rubbing a little bit of that pink over the top of that. So you can see that this softened and this has a little bit of hardness to it. So what we're looking for is a way to blend. And I'm just going to where the edges are and just softening them up a little bit. So you can see the difference between this flower and this flower just by using a little bit of that pink. Now, if you're uncomfortable with that and you just want to use your white pencil, you can go ahead and grab your white pencil. This is from Prisma. This is the white pencil PC938. And you could also just come in right along the edge of here and here and just use your white pencil. You'll get a little bit more of a pastel-y kind of feel if you just use the white. Okay, so I'm just going to go in and blur out my edges a little bit, and when we come back, we'll start to work with the other squares. So you can already see that this is starting to bring some gravity into this piece here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just do a little bit of a color change in here. Now, before we do our color change, a lot of you know that I like to use a technique called carrying color. And carrying color is where you'll take a color from one side of your piece and you'll bring it over to the other side. So before we do those other squares, what I want to do is I want to talk about the inside circles of our flowers over here. And I'm going to grab the colors that we've just been using, and I think I'm going to do the demo right here so that you can see it very clearly. Let's get that right up in there. So I'm going to start by coming into the piece with a little bit of that pale pink first. So you can see that I'm going to just lay down a foundation nice and light. And you can also see that I'm giving this a little bit of a light source right over here. So I'm doing just a light foundation, about 3/4 of the circle. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in with my color pencil. This is the process red, and I'm going to start to bring that about halfway through that pink that I just laid down. Once I've had a chance to get it through that pink, I'm going to go ahead and grab that purple, and I'm just going to dust the edge of that circle, and look at how it's starting to glow. I'll come back in with a little bit of that process red, blur out my edge, and then I'll come back in with some of that pink and blur the edge of the process red. And you can see that that gives us a beautiful head of the flower in here. So I'm going to do all of these. Now, if you've ever been in class with me before, you know that I don't like picking up and putting down a ton of pencils. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to start by going through and just laying down my foundation for all of these. Leaving the light source. So you can see it's not a pick up and put down process. It's just going in, adding the color, and then moving on to the next color. I just like to give you guys the demo first so that you know where we're going with it. Now I'm picking up that process red and I'm just softly dusting it in. Just dusting all that in. And then I'll come back in with that purple, or the violet rather. You can see that I'm just going to the outside edge. Just going to the outside edge. Look at how pretty that is. It really gives a nice correlation between one side of the piece and the other. I'll pick up that process red and I'll blur out the edge of that purple just a little bit, or that violet. I'm just going right where the violet touches the process red and giving it a little bit of a blur out. And then finally I'll come back in with a little bit of that pale pink and really clean it up. And look at how cool that is already. It's already starting to come to life. I'm loving it. All right, so you go ahead and finish up yours. I'll finish up mine, and when we come back, we will start to work with the other squares. So some of you may have heard me talk about the union of opposites in one of my other classes. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to bring in a contrasting color here to really make this pop off the page. So I have the really pretty peacock green here. This is 1006. I love this color. It's just beautiful. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come into the flower first, and you'll see that I'm going to go extremely light with this. Very translucent in that presentation for this. So just very, very light and easy. Once I have that in there, I'm going to start to press a little bit harder on this pencil. Now, because this pencil has so much pigmentation to it, it really makes it fun to work with because you can get different greens out of it, which I absolutely love. So let's get in there nice and big. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down in here. And you can see that I'm going about halfway through the piece with that medium tension, and then I'm going to press nice and hard right in towards the center. So just going a little bit heavier, and then nice and hard as I get close to the center. Okay, so medium tension, then a nice and hard press, and then finally again medium tension, and then nice and hard tension, right? So once I've got that, I'm going to grab for that white pencil that I was talking about earlier. Now here's something to be aware of. You can see that my pencil has a little bit of pink on it. We don't want that to be getting into the green. We want to make sure that the pencil is clean. And then I'm going to come in and I'm just going to dust the edge of where that heavier press is coming into where the lighter press is. So you can see that I'm just going through and just going to the transition areas and just getting a nice blend there. Really, really fun and easy. So now you know me and you know the way that I work. I'm going to go through here and I'm going to start to lay this down all very light first, and then I'll come back and do my mediums and my darks. And that the reason for this is that we want the brain to kind of get into a flow, get into the groove, as it were. If I'm stopping to change my tension all the time, I'm not going to get into a groove. It's going to be more arduous. So you can see that I'm just starting to work my way through. I'm not being overly cautious with it. You can see I'm just kind of popping in and getting through. I was just in a class the other day, and one of the teachers was saying, don't muck about, just get right in and get right out. And I really loved the idea of that you're just not getting overly precious with it. So you can see that I'm just not getting overly precious. Coming up. Once I've had a chance to get all the way through it, I'll come back and do all those little details in the color. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to do mine. And when we come back, we're going to start to work with the background in the box here. All right, so I'm going to start to bring in a little bit of a contrasting green next to this. So this green has a little bit of a blue background to it, and what I happen to have in my hand is a green that has a little bit more of a yellow background to it. So this is the spring green, and what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and start to bring in that spring green into the background of where that bluish green is, right? And you can see that I'm getting a really nice contrast between the two. I'm not using a ton of pressure. I'm just going nice and light, just to give it a little bit of pop. So you can see that just kind of jumps right off the page. Look at the difference there between the white and the green. It's just giving that a little bit more electricity. So I'm just going in and I'm going to give this a little bit of a pop. I'm getting right in there and doing all of those squares just like that. You can see that I'm working that pencil in a circular-like motion so that it has a really nice mist of color, and I'm not being overly precious with it. I'm just getting it in there and moving on. Okay, so you go ahead and do yours, I'll do mine, and when we come back, we're going to start to work with these other flowers. So you can already see that this is starting to come together here a little bit. So we've got this really nice pattern going on over here, but also you can see that the butterfly is starting to emerge from that background, and it's not feeling so complicated. And that's why I love to talk about the use of color here. Color can take a tangle that looks really, really busy and anchor it and give it some peace and softness, and that's really what this is all about, is finding that peace and softness in the midst of chaos, right? I mean, the world is a very chaotic place, and working with Zentangle is a great way to practice creating peace in a chaotic world, right? So we're just doing it on paper, but it's like you can practice it anywhere you go and create peace wherever you are. So we are going to start by working down over in this area in here. And what I'm doing is I'm going to add in a new color, and the new color is going to be related to some of this bluishness, but it's not going to be the same color. So I've got two different colors in my hand. I've got the light aqua, which is the PC992. And then I also have one of my favorite colors. This is True Blue, and this is PC903. And what this is going to do is it's going to give a nice contrast to what's going on over here, but it's going to anchor it in over here. Okay? So what I'm going to do is I'm going to start with the light aqua first, and I'm going to go ahead and just do a demo for you on one of these flowers in here. I'll come in with that light aqua first and start to anchor this flower. So you can see that I'm just pulling in that very soft aqua into that flower. Now once I've done that, I'm going to go ahead and grab that True Blue, and I'm going to very softly bring in that True Blue about halfway through. And I'm going to give it a hard press right at the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to do the same thing over here. Hard press right at the bottom. And I'm going to do the same thing right in here. So I'm just getting in there and adding that. Now to do my blend of color, I'm going to come back in with that lighter blue, and right on the edge of where that darker blue is meeting the light blue, I'm going to blur my edge, and also where that darker blue is meeting the medium blue, I'm going to blur that edge. Now if you feel more comfortable working with the white pencil, you can go ahead and work with your white pencil. Okay, so I'm just doing a little bit of that. Now once I have that, I want to add in a little bit of definition to those outside petals in here. So I'm going to just take that True Blue, and I'm going to start by coming in with a base of the True Blue, and you can see already, because it doesn't have the aqua underneath it, it has a little bit of a different tone to it. And I'm going to go all the way around. Same thing over here, and same thing down in here. Now here is a really nice trick. I'm going to pick up the violet that we used up here to make this dark, and I'm going to bring it in here. So I'm just going to go in with that violet and just add a little splash of that violet into these. And then I'm going to blur out the edge with a little bit of that True Blue. So I'm thinking of, what's that flower called that is like a vine? They're not forget-me-nots. I'll remember in a minute. So you can see that that has a really nice feel to it. So I'm going to go all the way around this piece and do all of my flowers. You go ahead and do yours. Now remember, when I do my flowers, I tend to do all of my lights first. So I'm going to go in with all of my aquas and do my aqua, and then I'll come back in with the True Blue. So you go ahead and do yours, I'll do mine, and then we come back, we'll do some more shading. So I've got the violet in my hand, and I had just gone in and done all of the adding of the violet in my flowers here. I'm going to be using this violet in the background too. And what I mean by that is I'm going to go very, very softly. Here's a great place to start. I'm just going to go very, very softly with the violet, and you'll notice that the violet has a little bit of a lighter presentation to it than it does when I put it over my True Blue. And the reason for that is because it's got the white as a background, so you can see that it presents a little bit differently. So I'm just coming in and I'm just adding a little bit of that violet wherever I'm seeing white in the background, just to give it a little bit of cohesiveness. And also I want that white on the outside of the flower to pop, and it needs to pop against something, and so it's going to pop against that really pretty violet. So I'm just going through and adding it into the background. You can see I'm going all the way through where the butterfly is. I'm just looking for any places where I don't have a flower, but I need to add some color. So I'm just taking my time with it. I'm going very, very lightly. So it's just a splash of color. It's not like I'm doing a heavy, heavy color with it. So you go ahead and do yours in the background. I'm going to finish up mine, and when we come back, we're going to start the transcending process around the butterfly to get him to emerge from all of this chaos that is in here. Because you know, it is a little chaotic. I mean, when you look at it, you've got these two patterns, and then you've got the butterfly. We want to really kind of calm the whole thing down a little bit. And we're already starting to do that with the violet, but I really want it to pop. So I already love this piece. It's so fun, and it's got a real summery kind of feel to it. It almost feels like a girl's summer dress. It's cheerful, it's happy. And these are great if you want to make greeting cards out of them and give them to a friend, or maybe you do a random act of Zentangle where you leave it in a book in the library for somebody to find. I love to share my work with people and just kind of brighten their day. And who wouldn't want to find something like this in a book and have it as a keepsake? So I have in my hand my gray color pencil. This is the 70% cool gray. It's my favorite gray. And one of the reasons why I like this is because I'm left-handed. I don't like graphite because it smears and it smudges. And so this tends to stay put a little bit more. Now, another good tool to have handy is your black color pencil from your Prismacolor set. I love these two together, especially for this particular piece, because the black is going to give this a little bit of gravity too. But I'm going to start with the 70% cool gray. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a shadow going all the way around my butterfly. So you're going to see me start to create this shadow. Now I know some of you have asked me, can I use my tortillon with my color pencils? If you push hard, yeah, but you run the risk of, one, destroying your tortillon, and two, it ending up looking a little bit smeared or smushed. And so what I'm doing is I'm just very, very lightly going around the entire perimeter of my butterfly with a little bit of that gray. So I'm just going to continue to work around it. And I would say that I'm coming out about 1/4 of an inch away from the butterfly itself. So you can see that I'm doing that with a circular-like movement of the pencil here. And I'm just getting in there with that kind of smoky or foggy gray. And you can see I'm just going right over the top of my tangles. You know, this whole class is kind of geared towards going right over the lines and not really being overly careful with that butterfly. You're just going right over your tangles and getting right in there. So you can see that I'm creating this smoky aura or a foggy aura around her. And I'm taking my time. There's no rush. So I'm just working my way through. And I would say that I'm using, a light to medium tension. I'm not pressing overly hard with this. Now, if you feel like you need to push a little bit harder with your pencil, you're more than welcome to. But we don't want to have a really hard line. We want it to kind of have a blurry feel to it. So I'm working my way around, getting about 1/4 of an inch out from that butterfly. I can see that I didn't finish coloring over here, so you can see that I'm going to just quickly grab my green and get that one spot. Alright, so you can see there's the kind of smoky edge to the butterfly. Now you can see that it's really starting to emerge, right? It's starting to come to the front. And so just noticing any places where you need to kind of clean up your shading here. And then once you have that, I'm going to pick up that black that I had here. This is the Prismacolor black, and this is PC935, I believe that is. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to come in and I'm going to go right along the edge of where that line is for the black on the butterfly here, and I'm just going to start to define it a little bit. I am not pushing hard with this pencil. This pencil has tons of pigmentation to it, so I really don't need to make it any heavier than I have to. I'm looking kind of for a secondary charcoal color with this. I'm just getting right in there and giving this a little bit of a pop. You can already see that that butterfly is starting to emerge. How cool is that? And using really simple tangles in the background is really nice for this project. So if you're not into working with complicated tangles, Bales is such a nice, easy tangle to work with. And this flower that we were using to layer, you can have opportunities all over the place and it doesn't matter because it doesn't show up, So I really like that. You can see I'm starting to get into where that butterfly is, and look at how cool this is turning out to be. I'm getting in under his antennae here. So you can see that's really working out quite nicely. So go ahead and do yours. I'm going to finish up working with mine, and then when we come back, we're going to start to work with the inside just a little bit. Alright, so I want to still continue to add a little bit of definition to the piece here. So I'm going to pick up that process red that I had early on in the piece, and what I'm going to start to do is just very, very faintly, I'm going to just hug the inside edge of wherever I have pink on here. So you're going to see me kind of go in and hug the inside edge of where I have some pink. And then once I have that, I'm going to grab some of that really nice green that we used in here, and I'm going to let that hug the inside edge of wherever I have any green. And what that's going to do is it's going to give kind of an illusion of definition on the inside. Now once I get down in here, I'm going to pick up some of my true blue and use a little bit of that down in here. just to give it a little definition where there's blue present. So you're going to see me come in, and I'm pressing a little bit harder with that blue. Just to give it some definition. So you can already see that's starting to define itself a little bit more. And then finally I'll come in with some of that violet, and I'll just define some of those edges with the violet. Now with the violet, I'm not going to push hard because I don't want it to turn too dark. I want it to stay light and translucent. So I'm just hugging the edges with some of that violet wherever it's present. And you can see that I'm just staying with the outside edge. Isn't that so fun? I just love how that looks. I might even dip in a little bit in here. Super cool, super fun. So go ahead and finish up yours. I'm going to finish up mine. And then when we come back, we're going to add a little bit of white highlight on this, and then we'll finish up the piece. Have fun. Don't forget to breathe and relax. Enjoy what you're doing. And I'll see you in a minute. Right, so you're going to see that it's really starting to glow. Isn't that butterfly just fantastic? I love it, and I love that the patterns are in the background, but the butterfly is just popping right off the page, which is really, really cool. So I've got my Signo white pen in my hand here. So if you've got the Jelly Roll white or the Signo white, that's what we're going to be using today. And we're going to add just a little bit of a highlight around the edge of the butterfly. And I'm going to start right in over here. And the reason why I had you bring in the darker color around the inside is so that we could add some white highlights to it. So I'm going to come in right over here, and let's make this nice and big so that you can really see what I'm up to. So you can see there's that shadow of blue in here, which is so nice. And I'm going to get my pen started, and I'll just go in and add a little bit of a highlight in here and a couple of dots. And you can see that I'm just kind of looking for any places where I might be able to add a little bit of a highlight in here. And I'm looking for my darkest spots to add it into, you know, because I want to give it kind of a glassy feel. You know, after all, we are transcending, so we are not, you know, looking for something that's heavily opaque, but something that has a little bit of a translucentness to it. So I'm going to come in and add some more of these. And you know me, I do love this white pen. It is so fun to work with when it wants to cooperate. Hello, hint, hint, cranky pants pen. But you can see how just adding some of those little highlights to it really can make such a huge difference to a piece. Super fun. Love that. So let's kind of scroll out just a little bit. And then finally, I'm going to add a little bit of white on the inside of my dots that I have in my my pattern here. So you're going to see me come in and just pop in some highlights into my dots, just to give it a little extra fun. And you know there's always going to be one that gets away from me, right? And if you need to define your dots just to make them pop off a little bit more, you can. You can go back in with some of that black and do that, like I went through and added some in over here. You know, I've got my thicker pen in my hand, and I'm just kind of adding them where I think they should be. It's really about what you feel is working for your piece. And then I might even come into my tipple and add just a little dot. You can see it's fighting me here a little bit. A little dot of the white into my inside of the flowers. Just kind of fun. All right, so go ahead and finish yours up, and when we come back, we'll be adding our chop. All right, so I like to add my chop to my piece when I'm finished, and that's part of the Zentangle process, and I like to hide my chop in my piece. So a chop is just your initial, and I am just going to come down here in this corner right here and add my chop right in here. I've got this nice little space. And it just lets me know that the meditation that I've just been participating in is coming to a close. And I just take stock of what I just did and admire the piece that I just worked on and offer gratitude for this moment in time where I did something for myself that I enjoyed, and also know that it was good for me to engage in something that was a little bit challenging, but also creative. Okay, so something to definitely think about as you are coming to a close with this. Now, I am going to bring up another couple of pieces that I've been working on. This one I did on brown paper, and I really love the way that it turned out. It has a really nice feel to it. So if you're wanting to try this on a tan or a gray paper, that's a really nice way to do it. And I even did one where I made some smaller butterflies and put them all together, and I just used one tangle in the background, and that was really fun as well. So I want you to feel as though you can play with this and make it your own and try different things. I'm always coming back and trying new things with each piece and learning something new, and I hope that you learn something new too. If you enjoyed this video, you can give me a thumbs up for the video or leave a nice review. Please subscribe to Tangled Yogi 333 so that you are notified every time I add a video, and then that way you've got free classes to play with anytime that you like. So this class actually is dedicated to my friend Karen, who asked me to create a butterfly class for her. And so Karen, this is for you. I'm sorry it took me so long, but it is here for you now. Please share your pieces up on Tangled Yogi Art Community page. We'd love to see your work. And we've got a really great community of super supportive students and teachers. And we really like to encourage each other on as we create these beautiful pieces. So once again, this is Rami Marks, your Tangled Yogi. I hope you are safe and well and having fun with transcending the Mariposa. Bye for now.